Hello everybody, it's Rachel here at Clarty Hands Crafts, and today I am on day 2 of December Daily. I'm going to be using this wrapping paper which me and the girls at work have been using to wrap hundreds of selection boxes for the children. So I just wanted to keep that as a little memento. I've done a journal and card that I need to get in here somehow, and I'm a bit nervous about trying to incorporate the pink paper into my traditionally coloured journal because we're all reds and greens and creams here. I've chosen, well, I haven't chosen it, it's just happened to fall upon a more neutral page, so I'm hoping it's going to look alright, but I'm just going to go for it anyway and just try not to be too hung up on the theme of the journal, because that is what quite often happens. So I have this piece and I wanted to just use that as a bit of a backing, and I quite like the wonkiness here, so I'm going to use that. I'm just going to mark the fold of where the paper should end, and then I can just use that fold line to trim it down. That'll do nicely. And do I need to take some off the corner there? No, I can fit it on. So to stick that down, I'm just going to use a glue stick. That's if they haven't dried out yet. I have been in my son's drawer, so it is possible that he's left lids off and things. Oh, he hasn't. He's been a good lad. He's left them with the lids on so they don't dry out. So I'm just adding loads of glue to this, and I'm hoping that it's going to stick, even though there's a slight sheen to that wrapping paper. It is that kind of cheap wrapping paper which I actually prefer for things like this, because it tends to stick more easily, whereas some of the thicker papers are too glossy. So if I just pop that along that bottom edge, then I can pull it into position and smooth it out as well, so that'll get rid of some of my creases that were in the paper from where I folded it up and put it in the pocket. I was trying to avoid questions so I've just like tucked it away in the hopes that nobody would notice me randomly pocketing little bits of paper. That is the life of a junk journal, as you guys know. You understand. I'm just going to trim that to make it nice and even. Or have I made it worse? Yeah, I made it worse. Look at that. That's terrible. Let's just kind of go along and hope for the best there. Yeah, I haven't really ruined that page, and that's all I'm worried about. And if I turn it the other way, then I can just use that white edge as my guide to trimming. That'll do. Right, don't get hung up on things, Rachel. Let's just relax and enjoy the process. So that should be sticking down, but I am going to just do a little bit of washi tape. I found this. There's gold. I don't know if you can see very well, but there's gold in this guy's crown. I think they're supposed to be nutcrackers, aren't they? In the crowns and in the trunk of the trees. So there's gold in this tape, and I am just going to run some down here to hide that wonky edge. This wonky edge looks like it's supposed to be wonky. This one doesn't. So I just run that down the centre, but I'm just trying to leave maybe 0.5 millimetre or something like that. Oh, just undo that. So 0.5 millimetre or something like that down that inside edge, just so that my my pages don't start folding it back on itself when they're moving open and closed. I don't want it to start making a lip down there. I think my tiny scissors will do a better job of getting into the tiny gap. There we go, that looks better. And then just give that a good rub down so that it doesn't come off. It's nice and warm in here as well, so I'm hoping that'll help the glue to stick. Right, So I have this photograph, and what I'm thinking is have the photograph up here, and then I've got a journal and card that I've written my little notes about what happened on there. So I want to make a pocket for here. Now, something else that I found at school was this. I have no idea what it was, but I was cleaning out one of the rooms. We've been getting some new classrooms, and in the old classrooms, there's just a load of junk. So I thought, oh, that's an interesting texture. Now, what I was wondering is whether to put that as some background texture to peek out from behind the photograph, or whether to use that as the pocket. And because it's so wide, I'm thinking I'm going to go with the background texture idea. So let me just cut that down. Let's just see what happens. And as always, I don't want any perfect edges, which is just as well because I don't think I'm going to get any. It's quite hard to cut that.
Yes.
And then I can mount the photograph. Don't want double thickness to make it a bit more meshy. Or just single. Single will do. Now, I'll just move the journal out the way so that you can actually see what I'm doing, possibly. Here we are with my shiny photos again. And that can be just laid on top like that. Now I want less. So what I'm thinking is that wonky edge that I've got there, just going to use that as a guide and cut like that, straight up. Then I'm going to cut this folded edge bit off because I think it looks a bit ugly. Now I think I'm going to use this gold tissue next. So let me just build this up and we'll see if we can get some layers going. I'm going to use scissors again there. As you can see, I'm not being careful in the slightest. That's it, and the reason that I wanted to do that before I stuck it to the mesh is that will help to hold the mesh in place, because obviously it's very holy and it won't really stick to anything very well. So I'm just going to set that at a bit of an overlap so that I've got some over the gold and some even further off the gold. And then I'm just going to add my glue, wet glue this time, to the back of the photo. And then I'm just going to plop that on top. I want to just use some of these tiny scraps that I've got, tiny scraps of fabric, and I thought that, if that's the front, could just overlap there so that we don't have too much black on show on the coat. And just stick that down, overlapping, and then I'll have some over here just to balance it out a little bit. And then I think I've got some little bits and bobs somewhere. In this box I've got snowflakes. Now it was a really frosty day, as you can tell by the way we're all wrapped up warm. And I thought maybe we could just add a little snowflake here and there to prove the fact that it was a frosty day. And also it's nice and festive. They can go there. Add a nice bit of sparkle. Do we want some gold as well? Or is the gold too bright? I'm going to leave it as the silver ones because I think silver and pink will go nice together. And that gold colour that's in the book is like a almost dirty brown kind of gold colour. So, like that is well on its way to being okay. Oh, I don't know if I like the snowflakes. I think they're a bit tacky. Never mind. I'm going to leave them on because Christmas is tacky, isn't it? Prepare for the noise. I have some cereal packet here. So I was thinking of making a cereal packet pocket. And what I want to do is just get some card ready. And then I'm going to cut this down to the pocket size that I want. So let's say something like... No, it doesn't need to be that big actually. It needs to just be quite a shallow one. And that's going to be going in this bottom space here. So I want it to stop somewhere around there. I want to add some ink to the edges just to darken it down a bit so that it goes in tone with the rest of the journal. I'm just going to cut this top bit off of the packet. So that I've got a smaller section to work with. And what I'll do is I'll be putting that inside. Hang on, let me just cut around it. Now, I could just leave this top edge like that, but I'm not going to. No. I was thinking that would show where to put things and it keeps it quite separate when it's got those ridges in. But I think it's going to be better to just have it nice and flat. And then what I'm going to do is just stitch around 3 edges. So I'll be stitching this edge, and this edge. And that'll hold everything in place. But I am going to glue the card to the back section. Just with glue stick again. Because that doesn't show up as badly as wet glue would. Not that you're going to be able to see it because it's on the back panel. But, you know, it gives me options if you can't see. So I'm just going to try and get that in that fold. Oh, come on, line up. Right. I'm just sliding it into position, smoothing it down, and then that's going to go around there like that. Now I think, will I do wet glue or just use the glue stick, sorry. I'm going to use the glue stick. But I'm going to wind it out and then use this sharp edge to just do a really thin amount, narrow amount at the edges. And then I can close the front of the pocket over the top. And then what we'll have, I'll just use my journal card there. That'll go like that. So it'll just rest in and then you can still see through it. Obviously I'm going to jazz it up a little bit. So I'm going to get that stitching done. And then I think I'll have some pieces of lace and things over the top. Right, so this is what I've ended up with. I've edged it in brown cotton. Just going to trim those edges and I quite like those little tatty bits. And then I've got a bit of surplus plastic, so I'm just going to cut that down without cutting into the stitching because I don't want it to unravel. Right, so then that will be going down there. That will be going up there. We'll be having our tag in there. How's that looking? I mean, it looks a bit big, that, doesn't it? But never mind, we'll just have to balance it out with a bit of lace and things like that. Else, hang on, I'm going to pull those off. Oh, she's committed to it and take them off. Don't mind the spots of glue being there because I've just had an idea of what I'm going to put there instead. If I can, I'm going to cut out one of these guys because the paper's getting quite covered up now, isn't it? So it's kind of pointless it being there. So if I cut out a Christmas tree and a nutcracker. Right, so I'm going to try and rescue this piece of lace and just move it a bit further down here. So I'm going to cover that glue splodge with another glue splodge, basically. And then this glue splodge can be stuck down, or sorry, hidden with my little drummer boy. Let's see, right, this needs sticking, doesn't it? I think that's the answer. I don't want that, I'll keep it folded back like that.
Fest.
Right, so that's sticking there, and then he is going to stick on top of the photograph, and partially on the background as well. Oh no, I've wrinkled him up a little bit. Let's hope he'll straighten out. I'm going to put him at a slightly jaunty angle. There, that will do nicely. And then this is going to be stuck down there. And I'm just going to do a full covering of glue and then pay particular attention to the cotton because that will stick to the paper. Whereas I'm not convinced that the plastic will. So that is going to go right down there. And what I'll do is just see if we've got any other bits and bobs. Ooh, I did have this present, but I don't know if it's going to be the right colour because it's dark. Stick the tree down on top of the pocket. Actually, yeah, I will. And then if I want some lace over the top of that, then I can do. Not sure where to put it. That goes there. Now, some lacy stuff. I've got this broderie anglaise. I've used the drawstrings. No, it's all too much. Too much. Got this little fluffy bit, and I thought that might go somewhere. I just feel like this has been very random now, isn't it? I've got this, which I just found. I know it's red, and I know this isn't going to go, but how cute is that? Little bobbly stuff. Right. This calls for something else. And there's a silver snowflake. Yeah, I prefer that one. Don't know where that's come from. Probably from a card or something that's just been stuck on. And that'll just help us with our layer in there and push things into the background a little tad more. Anything else I can find in here? Season's greetings, we're not quite there yet. Did I want a present? No. I think I need something to go along the bottom here. Something tiny. If I put that across there, do you think? And then I can write something on it. Then that'll just tie those bottom bits in together, bridge the gap. So I think I'll probably put the date on there.
You do.
Right, and one finishing touch that I want to add is just a piece of lace going across there. And it's this really thin stuff again. I can see this becoming a bit of a theme. We'll just snip that there. And then how am I going to stick it? Wet glue, do we think? I might do a bit of both. Tear that out so it's not lumpy. And then I'm especially putting the wet glue on the cotton bits. And then I think it should hold. If not, then I'll just peel it off, that's not a problem.
Okay.
That goes in there. And oh, that's enough. I'm happy with that. Right, so there we go, there's today's page. So that was the first one, that's the second one. We've got a tag there in a cereal packet pocket. And then we've got a photograph that's mounted on some different textured pieces. I hope you've enjoyed today's video, and I'll see you again tomorrow for another one. Bye.